Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. Tonight, I am pleased to have Ryan Pote on the program. Hey, Ryan.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. You're kind of like, I think the first time I heard your name or saw your book cover was probably Best Thriller Books, I'm assuming. That's my guess when I try to like go through my brain Rolodex, which is getting older and missing files, I think, as I get further
Have they
along.
done it? Have they done it? Has Bristol Books done it yet? I don't know. Have they?
One of the guys must have put a post out for you. I know they've
Oh,
reviewed
that's
your book.
cool.
I know they've
Oh, they
reviewed your
have.
book for sure.
Shoot, I
So
didn't even know that.
yeah, I'll find it for you.
I'll have to
I'll
look
jump
that
on
up.
social media and send it. Well, we had talked
You
offline, and I
learn
think
something new every day. Yeah.
exactly you kind of spend a lot of your time on Instagram versus like X or whatever,
Yeah.
Twitter, whatever you want to
hmm
call it. So I normally end up seeing a lot of the book type posts on X versus I see stuff
Got it.
on Instagram, of course, but normally if I see that a review's been posted, it's typically Instagram. And like we talked about offline, Facebook, I do see stuff on Facebook, but Facebook, I'm pretty famous for just uh, dropping a post and dumping, like getting out of there as fast as possible. So it's
Which ironically, Facebook is like where most of the readers are as engaged, but
I
it's like none
know.
of us like using it.
Well, and I do use some of the forums and all that for writers, so I'm on that part more. But when it comes to like my individual profile, like a couple of years ago, someone's like, "Oh, you need an author profile too," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I created one, especially when I started the imprint, the book imprint, which we were talking about offline, and doing the LLC and all that jazz. And I still have both, and I use the personal one a lot more than I use the author one. But the author one just spam galore. Like I don't even check the instant messengers on the author page anymore, the
It's insane.
messages, because it's 50 messages a day sometimes when I was checking of just like, you need a book cover? You need to buy reviews? Blah, blah, blah.
Or you violated our terms and you're being
Oh,
yeah, your
I should
account is being shut down by like Shalesh in India, like
exactly.
yeah,
If you just click on this link, we'll take
yeah,
care of it for
exactly.
you.
Yep, yep.
It's like,
100%.
so yeah, so my personal direct messenger or instant messenger, whatever they call it on Facebook, that one's no spam in that one. So that's how I'll interact with authors. I was at a bluegrass type of event last Friday. My son was playing somewhere.
Nice.
And this guy's down there. There's a whole big group of people, all kind of like almost like a jam. So just anyone could show up and play. And this guy up there swear looks like Mark Cameron. And so I had to be the weirdo to take a picture, message it to Cameron, and be like, dude, I see you in Tryon, North Carolina. I didn't know you played bluegrass. So I said, I found your doppelganger. I think his reply was, poor guy. So
That's nice. Yeah.
quite. That's probably the highlight of social media most of the time is if you can find something funny to share with someone.
Yeah. It's just everyone trying to get in there and figure out their niche and like I try and keep it like I'm not like a very open person with like my family and even myself like I wasn't on it before, so
Yeah,
I just try and keep it like, me and keep my family kind of out of it
yeah,
just
smart.
because but if I was on it, I could see if I was on it before, like using it like
Hmm.
a lot of people do put their family up and stuff like that. For me, I just, keep it keep them out of it. And
Yeah. Well, and you've got little
if
kids.
people out there are dying to see my kids, they'll never see them. Unless they come to one of my events, they'll probably be there and maybe your book can be signed by the real Ethan. Not me.
Yeah, I struggled with that early on. I had a Facebook account, put pictures on the kid. I think I've had some kid pictures. My ex was not pleased with it. Don't put posts of the kids, which I totally respect. I hadn't really thought through it, like I should have probably. So I took my Facebook account down, didn't, scrubbed everything that was there. And then years later, when I was starting to write, one of the first agent rejections I ever had was, hey, this is my first book, so 2000 probably 15, I was querying that one. Like, okay, you can write. This is a good story. What's your social media presence and website and all that? And I didn't say it, but my thought was social media is for suckers. Why would I have social media? I was like, no, I don't have any of that. And this lady replied, I'll never forget it. She's like, reach back out to me when you have 10,000 Twitter followers, you have a website, you have blah 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 blah. And I'm just like,
Yes.
Wait, what? What?
Yes. Yeah, I had zero social media presence. I had absolutely zilch when I got signed up.
When
So
you got
yeah, it
signed?
can happen. Yep,
Yeah.
it can happen.
No, it certainly can. Well, let's talk about that because we had mentioned it a little bit
Sure.
before we got on. So, a lot of times when your debut book comes out, people that maybe don't know how long of a journey this can be, I guess I should say it is first book coming out, your debut book is could be your first book or it could be your 10th book or your fourth or I think it's common that it's like I think Bentley was 4 books. I was four. No, I'm not comparing myself to Bentley. I was 4 books. I know multiple people that it was like their fourth book that actually got them an agent or a
Yeah.
contract. And then
Yep.
it's even more past that before people start normally earning a living and quitting a day job, and many, many more for some people or ever. So,
Yeah. I mean, I just think I think you can't learn the craft without doing it. I think very few people can just get in there and write their first book and they have an unbelievable natural talent.
yeah.
And those people are extraordinarily rare. I'm not one of them. It took a ton of work. And um, yeah, so I wrote 5 books
Mhm.
before I got published. The one that got published was my fourth of 5 books.
Okay.
Um, but like to condense the story, like I wrote two. The first 2 books I wrote were Ethan Kane thrillers, which are is what this is. So this one was actually the third Ethan Kane book that I wrote.
Gotcha.
So I never left that. And the other 2 books that I wrote were completely different. I did like a domestic crime thriller that was a little dark, totally structured differently, a little bit of first person, and then I did like a straight spy like thriller.
Hmm.
So with none of these other elements in it, totally different, characters and stuff. So I tried different things. Um, and I think what happened was like querying in the beginning is just like tossing into a black hole because
Hmm.
like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know how to pitch my book. I didn't know how to write a query letter. I didn't, and a lot of people can just keep doing that, or you can like, take stock in, okay, well, how do I write a better pitch? And
Hmm.
then I think as you not only do that, but simultaneously, like you write more books, you learn more just from
Yeah.
that. And then if you just take a stock in the craft as well, start understanding what you're actually doing in the book. That was the game changer for me. Not
Okay.
just writing better and being like, oh, I wrote better. It was actually figuring out like on like on a mechanical level, how did I create that suspense? What was the tool that I used
Hmm.
here, like academically, so that I could break it all apart and understand it? And it helped me write a better pitch. So I started getting like, it went from just black hole querying to I
Hmm.
started getting responses. Responses led to, like a couple of reads. And
Hmm.
then, it just kept growing, to the point where like I would send out a book and I would almost exclusively get asked for a read because I got good at the pitch. But,
Gotcha.
but it just wasn't quite there, or it
Hmm.
wasn't quite what they wanted, or whatever. Whatever happened, like I tried, I did 5 books. I got over 400 rejections. I had like a spreadsheet. So every time I'd send one out, I would send out like 5 a day. So
Yeah.
like I would just, switch the names and send them
Yep.
out and, update them or whatever. And I would track who it was with and have
Hmm.
like little, nerdy like that. But once I got up to like 400, I was like, I'm done with this freaking spreadsheet. Like
Yeah.
I've double backed on people. Like I just tired of looking up people. Like,
Right.
um, so I gave up on that, and I kept querying though. Um, but for me, I just fully gave up. I was done with it. I'd had an agent at one point. Went out with 2 of my books, and
Hmm.
then I never heard from him again after that.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting rid of him. Um, and then I entered the where I started really seeing momentum though is I entered the Clive Cussler Adventure Writers competition.
Yeah. I've heard
So
of
I
it.
leaned I leaned I leaned into like the genre that I like to write in, which is more like a Clive Cussler thing. I
Gotcha.
found out about that contest, and that contest, like most contests, you pay all this money and you submit the book, and like nothing ever happens. But
Right.
that contest had like 100 manuscripts at a time. Like it wasn't a very big contest,
Hmm.
but the reward was great. It was the top 3 finalists, Dirk Cussler, will read your book.
Hmm.
Um, and you get to go and mingle with all the Cussler authors. You get $500 as a finalist, and you get $1,000 as a winner. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, well that's not a bad contest. So I entered that,
Hmm.
and I was a finalist. So the $500 pretty much paid for the trip out there to the Cussler convention.
Yeah.
and I got to meet Dirk Kussler. He ended up blurbing my book, which was some momentum for any new author on
Absolutely.
submission. And then I met, all I met Graham Brown, I met Mike Madden, and I met Jack DuBrol, and I met all these Cussler guys that I've, read,
Hmm.
all growing up. And they were great. They were so personable and stuff. So it was a big like confidence booster for me to talk about my book with people that, I admired.
Yeah.
And then, nothing really came of it except Mike Madden ended up just, he told me that he was just, felt compelled to help me and not help me
Mm.
like get me a book deal. He just started reading my work, and for like a
Hmm.
year and a half, we developed an incredible friendship, and he just became like my writing mentor. And
Yeah.
he would help coach me along different books to get to learn the craft better and like give
Hmm.
me like valuable, he doesn't pull punches like, and
Right.
that was honestly what I needed in someone, in this, people always talk about like their tribe of writers and stuff,
Hmm.
but like I didn't really have that because I didn't go to like the big conventions and stuff. I didn't have the time or the money. So
Yeah.
him just taking me under his wing like that really gave me someone to open up to and talk to
Hmm.
and bounce ideas off of. He got me into writing screenplays, like, not with any grand hope of like, oh, you're gonna write movies. It was to get a different medium
Hmm.
and grow as a writer.
Right.
And they're a tool. They're just another way to get a story down on paper that's a little quicker that you
Right.
can, save. And you could write a 100-page outline or a 50-page outline. You could write a 100-page screenplay, and like,
Hmm.
at least one of them is currency, and it gives you another skill in your toolkit. So he was
Absolutely.
just teaching me how to do that, and just a lot of great advice. But at the end of it, my life was falling apart with other things. We had like a family crisis. We lost everything we owned. It's like a really long story. I don't want to go.
Mm.
My wife was about to have our second child, and like literally like 2 weeks, and so we had to leave the place that we were staying at and everything, and it was just a mess. And I was like, I had lost the agent, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna self-publish. Like I'm
Mm.
gonna just recoup the money that I sunk into this for my family and everything, and I'm gonna stop wasting my time with this because at that point I was taking a considerable amount of time away from my family to do
Right.
that. And
Yeah.
Mike Madden called me on the phone one day, and he was like, "So you're really going to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." I had covers made.
Hmm.
I got my stuff all proofread. Like I was gonna figuring out how I was going to get them typeset, and I was going to do the whole Kindle Unlimited. Just flash out 5 books in a row, just boom, boom,
Hmm.
boom, boom, boom. And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, wait, wait! Before you do that," he was like, "I had a friend." He's like, "My old editor for Cussler at Putnam, he got fired in the whole Simon Schuster PRH debacle,
Hmm.
and after 22 years, so he ended up becoming an agent at David Black Agency, who typically did just nonfiction, but they wanted to use my agent Mark Devani wanted to
Okay.
use him to expand their fiction realm. Now, like he's edited everyone from Cussler to CJ Box to, I mean, like just big names. And
Hmm.
I mean, 22 years at Putnam, he knew everybody, and he did not need to pick up me. Let's just be honest, right there. He had big names like knocking at his door. So
Yeah.
but Mike said some nice things about me because of our relationship, and he picked me up for a conversation, and that turned into like vetting me for 3 months,
Hmm.
and he read everything that I wrote,
Mm.
and he just vetted me hard and tried to figure out if I would be a good person to work with.
Yeah.
And after we got to know each other for a while, he agreed to represent me. We went out with the what is Blood and Treasure here,
Hmm.
and we got picked up by Tom Colgan, which was our only offer.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so we didn't have much to choose from, and there was a little bit of interest, but yeah, it was just Tom, and
If you're gonna get one though, getting Tom Cole, Tom's a pretty good one to
yeah,
be the one to be interested in you. So
yeah, and it was wild because I was sitting in his office, shortly after we made the deal, and I was like, looking at his wall of books. It was all like Clancy and Ludlum, and just all those kinds of like military spy thrillers. And
yeah.
there is a military and a spy element to my book, it's definitely more of an adventure thriller, and there's a supernatural element to it, and and I asked him like, why did you pick my book? Because it doesn't look like anything on the
On the
shelves,
shell.
like
Yeah.
in your office. This isn't like
Right.
what you do. And he was like, that's why I picked your book,
Mm.
because it's different, and
Yeah.
publishing right now is in an interesting position, and they're willing to take chances
Right.
um on uniquely familiar, and I don't mean different in that like it's wild, wacky, and weird, but it's it's uniquely familiar,
Hmm.
and I think people were really scared. Now I see in retrospect, like it's a very hard book to sell and for someone to take a chance on because it doesn't fit. Like they always say, like know where your book fits in the shelves. Like
Hmm.
they don't even know where to put my book in the shelves.
Right.
So like, if they don't know, like how is someone like you and I going to sell that
Sure.
to other people? And so but like, you know, my whole publishing story is just like I tried it myself. I completely failed, and I literally like got on my knees and gave all of this up to God,
Hmm.
and literally the day that I did that, that I gave up the ambition and just said like, you got this. Like I need to focus on my life and my world. Like
Hmm.
this is over. Um, Literally like the next day, like everything started happening
Hmm.
without me being involved. Like
Right.
things started coming to me instead of me seeking it.
Hmm.
And like so I say that not to be a cliche, that just like I tried my ass off to be a writer on my own and just
Hmm.
couldn't do it and just failed.
Yeah.
So now I attribute it all to just, the grace of God, and I'm just like kind of along for this ride. And
Hmm.
yeah, it would be irresponsible for me to take complete credit for, like what I've done in that respect.
Right.
So that's my story.
No, well, it's the element of that that's I think I just love hearing is that you gave it like everything you had. It's not happening. It's
Yep.
when you take that step back or that step onto your knees that
Yeah.
you've given it. I think there's a power. There is a power there. It's not that I think there is a power there that
Yeah.
you've given it off yourself. You've given it
Yep.
to a higher power, and I think we could very easily say that God was like, okay, now I'll do my part. I've been waiting for you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
give it to me, basically. So,
Yeah. Yep.
and even I think even people that don't have a faith can still appreciate the fact that you can't force everything in life. Things happen at the right
Right.
times. And people with faith might look back at it and say, okay, well, that's God's will that did it. Other people without faith might find another thing that ties that together. But at the end of the day, it just shows you that as people, you can only try, you have to try extremely hard, but that doesn't mean it's going to work out.
Right.
However, the one thing I'll say before that, I say that though, is if you don't start that journey, that's what I always tell people, like when they're asking about how to write a book, and I'm like, start writing.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
research it. There's great books. I've got Stephen King, I've got David Morrell books on, on writing and all these great things that are wonderful resources. But at the end of the day, if you don't start writing something, if you sit on your couch and turn on
Yep.
Netflix, I guarantee you the book won't be written. Maybe
A
AI might write a
hundred
book for you
percent.
one day, but it's not legit. You're not writing
Yeah.
a book if you don't put in the work.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta put the work in, and you gotta want to do it. Like
Yeah.
my circle shrunk. Like when I committed myself to writing initially,
Hmm.
like, you know, I had to sit down with my wife after I finally told her I was writing and be like, is this worth my time? And she read it and was just like, yes, like supporting it. But at the same time, like she wasn't going to keep supporting it if it was just, if it was the thing making our life, like fall, I
Sure.
couldn't sustain it when things got rough. Like I couldn't sustain it because it's such a big time suck, right? Like,
Right.
but to make it work with our life, like I had to cut out, like my friend circle got real small.
Hmm.
I cut out all my hobbies. Like I was just all in on this, and I really do think that that's what it takes
Hmm.
to and like I said, some people might have more talent, more ability. It might come easier to them.
Hmm.
Like it was a lot of work, and that was the kind of sacrifice that I had to make to do it. And But yeah, I mean, in the end, is it worth it or not? Like, you know, I don't know. People always say like the grass is greener on the other side. Like my book hasn't come out yet. I don't. I'm just getting into this publishing world, and it's a business, and you just got
It
to
is.
navigate it like a business. And I approached it like a business, and I think
Hmm.
that what I'm seeing on the other side is if you have the business mindset, I think you're going to be all right. But
Hmm.
if you go into it thinking, oh, like I'm the creative and everyone's gonna do everything for me, and like no, like we talked a little bit offline, like you still have to hustle. You still
Yeah.
they this isn't like a this isn't like a self plug or anything. Like they made Blood and Treasure the like lead title of the summer, which is
Hmm.
fantastic. Like,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
was like, what does that mean? that means they're going to actually put some marketing money behind it. So I was all
Right.
excited. And this isn't a knock on the publisher at all. I'm super grateful for everything they do, but like they're not going to, when people think like, oh my goodness, like you're going to get some publicity from like Penguin Random House, like I'm still a debut author. Nobody knows
Mhm.
who I am. And they have like they put out like 30,000 books a year. Like
Yeah.
it's not just you in this, genre. They have so
Right.
many other books that are so much bigger than our genres. Like thrillers are like the smallest
We're
of what
small.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like when you get that perspective, you're like, okay, I get it now. Like they're just going to put their stock thing out because they don't have time they're overworked too, and they got a lot of things going on. So yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, even in my position, like you're still hustling just as much as you were as a self-published author, like trying to push your book. So you got a little bit of a leg up, but at the same time, you're still out there like working and doing it yourself, or no one's going to do it for you.
You're
So
hustling. I've been fortunate, like you when you were talking about Mike and different people that kind of helped mentor you. So
yep.
actually, Adam Hamdy was the one for me. And at one
Oh,
point, I
great.
referred to him as kind of like mentor and a back and forth joke or whatever. We were messaging each other, and we're both big Seinfeld fans. So he's like,
Wow. Right
Costanza
here
had
too.
men. You start
Count
talking
me
about the
in.
mentors, basically. So I know your children are younger. Once they get old, so I'm at the stage now with mine. My son's going into college in like 6 weeks. He's leaving in August.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's an amazing step for him. And then my daughter's just starting high school, so they kind of had
Okay.
gotten that age recently, in the last year or two, where I could still there's still a few episodes I won't show them, but we'll watch Seinfeld like at dinner and stuff. So it's been kind
Yeah.
of fun to
That
get
was my
that.
childhood too. Dinner
Oh, totally
Seinfeld.
my child. I've got all the DVDs. I've got the Seinfeld Lego set. You can't see it off camera.
I love
I've
it.
got all this stuff. My daughter will get me stuff for Father's Day. Like she got me a pad a couple years ago that was yada yada yada. It was a little pad you put on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
So,
I
um,
love it.
yeah, but like Adam said though, he was giving me a hard time about being a mentor. But he was someone that I could go to, and when he first started helping me, and we're talking probably like 2017, 2018,
Okay.
he said, I'm going to be brutally honest. I will read your stuff and I will give it the attention and time, but I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Can you accept that? Because I'm not going to be
Yeah.
like, hey, this is great and it's not great. I'm going to tell you if it's not great. And I was like, that's what I need. It won't
Yeah.
hurt, but that's what I want. And then the other
Yep.
person that's not been a mentor, but I've followed and he's been super encouraging over the years is Brad Meltzer. And I'll go
Mm.
back and forth with Brad sometimes about stuff. And the one thing that he's always reminded me before I got published, after I got published, now that I'm on book 5 coming out here, is that the hustle never ends. People think, oh, you're going to get to a level and then you're just going to sit back and, I guess smoke Cuban cigars and be in Fiji. Yeah, maybe if you're J.K. Rowling, maybe, Patterson could do it if he
Yeah.
wanted to, but he still doesn't. He hustles. He was at Thriller Fest this last year, and um,
Yeah.
the hustle never ends. It really doesn't. And maybe 30 years ago, Theodore Kaczynski, you just wrote in your cabin and mailed the stuff off to a publisher, and that's how it worked. But those days are gone. That doesn't happen anymore. You hustle and you
Yeah.
work if you've got a book coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it just I think it's just for me, I mean, I won't speak for anyone else but myself. Like I want to do this as a career, and like I'm not the person who's just going to say while it, once the book goes out, the book speaks for itself. But until then, and
Hmm.
even in some respect after that, like um, you know, you've got to drive your own ship. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to do it, because if you leave it up to other people, you're always going to be let down because your expectation is always a little bit higher than what's given to you.
yep,
So as long as, I just, told, you know, my wife, but also like for myself, like if I'm going to do this and take this time away from my kids and like if you want to talk about like smoking cigars on Fiji, like my like ideal day would just be to write my book in the morning and then just spend the whole day with my kids, like to be honest. But
yeah,
like you know, I need to justify that for myself. So like,
right.
as like a former, I love sports and everything. Like I have to leave it all out on the field. And if
Hmm.
I can do that and the book fails, at least I can say to myself, I gave it everything I had, and it wasn't, successful or whatever. And
Right.
but yeah, but I'm excited for even the two people who read it and love it. Like I'll be happy to talk to those people for sure.
Y- You're going to get a few more than two since I know some people that have already read it and told me how great it was. So I think you're covered on that one. But But, and also the other thing I'll correct you with is there's no way it's a failure. Now, financially, could it fail? Yes. But the fact of looking over your shoulder right now, you have a book that you
That's
wrote
true.
that is coming out to be published, no matter how many copies show up out there.
I just
And
got the
this is
hardcover.
what's that?
Just got the hardcovers
You
today.
just, how cool is that?
I got this like
How cool is it to hold your hardcover in your hands?
real nice looking book. I mean, it's pretty cool, but like I thought I heard people talk about this, they even did the color on the inside as well,
Yeah,
which is really nice.
they did. Yeah.
I I don't know, like I watched so many like authors debut and they were like so excited when they opened that box and like holding it and stuff. But and I've said this before, I'm just not apparently I'm not the kind of person who like just sits back and like cracks a beer and like takes some time off and toasts. Like this just ignited some kind of deep level of drive and reserve that I didn't know I had because the second I like quote unquote like made it across the
Hmm.
finish line, like books coming out, like I was immediately on to the next one and done. And then when that was done, I was like, where's the next mountain? Like
Yeah.
why would I take my foot off the gas now? Like so I've
Right.
just been just like working nonstop and
Hmm.
like I'm and so it's a little surreal because I'm looking at it and I'm just like, okay, that's like kind of far behind me now. It's
Right.
weird.
Well, and what I was going to say too, though, is it's something that, as a father, you always have to show your kids. First of all, the book, but also the effort you put in to get to that point where you can hold your hardcover and be like, okay, I'm on to the
Yeah.
next thing. Just getting
Yeah.
that, getting it to that phase is something that so many people in in the world now, or then take it back to even bigger, of anyone that's ever been born, there's very few people that have actually completed something of that
Yeah.
task of writing something that
Yeah.
big. So it's
Yeah.
something to be applauded and commended, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I've told the story before when because my journey started in 2014. We were talking about my backstory offline, so I didn't,
Yep.
waste your listeners' time on my show, of hearing my backstory again. But my journey started in 2014, and I didn't hold my first book until November of 2021. So
Oh,
7 years.
amazing.
So it took
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
I will say,
Mine's
when I
about 5.
opened that book, had that first copy, and the first month or so I held that book, almost every time I teared up. And like I just felt it. But, and I've mentioned this in the podcast before, that diminished after time. And then the second book came out. I held it. I thought it was really cool. I put it down 10 seconds later. And I think it's gotten worse. Now that I'm
Yeah.
up to book five, I'm like, awesome. I'm trying to put two more books out in the next 12 months. Cool. I got to get back to the other. I'm still writing the
Yeah.
the
The
sixth and seventh.
I think the coolest thing that happened for me was that, because my kids are very much aware of the whole process and stuff. And so I got to like help design the cover, which it was really cool. I was very much a part of the cover design.
Yeah.
That was my title. So I was very fortunate that like my ideas were kind of taken. So it is cool to see it all kind of come together. But what's really cool is so I dedicated this book to my son and he also shares the namesake of my protagonist. And
Hmm.
when the books came, like my kids immediately like grabbed like one and they said that it was theirs and they like took it and tried to start reading it, and they're sitting there and they're 4.5 and 2, so they're
Yeah.
just sitting there like reading it and like it was just so dang cute. And then they wanted me to like sign it for them, and then my son like put it up in his bedroom on his dresser,
That's
and it was
awesome.
just like it was freaking cool. And what
Yeah.
makes it even cooler is when I was also heavily involved in the audiobook production,
Okay.
and I went down. I picked the narrator and everything, and I went down there and I got to be a part of the whole directorial process. So that was really
Hmm.
amazing. But I got to read the dedication, so it's really cool because
That's
like
cool.
you know like it's my voice dedicating the book to my
To
own
your
kids. So
to
it
your
was really
son. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, my
awesome.
kids have all the books. They haven't read them. My son's old enough now; he could read any of them. There's a few bad words in there, of
They
course.
will one day.
They will. Yeah, they will. But they're all on their shelves, and that was the one thing they always asked
Yeah.
is, when does our, do we get our copies? And I'm like, you guys get the hardcovers. Some people only get paperbacks, but you guys are getting the hardcovers. So
I firmly believe that like I and understand that my kids probably won't read any of the books that I write until maybe they're like older and they
yeah,
like much older, and maybe I'm even like I'm older and they just want to know what I was like a little bit more. Like, yeah. Anyways, now we're getting
Well,
sentimental.
there's a little piece of you. I say this on the podcast, and I say this to other writers, is even if you make up the most fantastical story possible, if you write fantasy or you write whatever,
Yeah.
there's a piece of your soul in every book. Every book you write,
Oh
there's
yeah.
a little bit. Like you'll find some way, even if it's subconscious and you don't realize you're doing it. You're finding to put a little
Yeah.
bit. And for like I end up having like this story that I've got coming out this summer, right around the time yours is. I had a trip in 1996. I had a school trip over to Europe in college, and so I found one of the things that happened in that trip, almost 30 years later now, to fictionalize, but 80% of it's really what happened. So I gave it to one of my characters. And so as I was proofreading through that a couple months ago, it just flooded back that trip to me. Like, oh, I remember being in the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
I remember getting kicked out. Oh man, it was so cool, while I was young and stupid. So, but stuff like that you can put in that, unless you mention it in a podcast, people will read it and be like, oh, cool story or cool little thing. And they don't realize, no, that really happened. Most of that was real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty fun.
I I was actually just talking to another author friend of mine, Ethan Cross, and we were talking about like our wives like beta reading the book, and like
Mhm.
my wife is not a very good beta reader anymore to be able to tell if like a line is hitting right or like if something is hitting the way I want it to hit the reader because
Right.
she knows me so well that she can see me in everything. She can see
Right.
me in everything. She's like, "Come on, you dork," like that kind of thing. Like so I almost can't use her for that anymore because she knows me too well and it comes out too much in the book.
Too funny. Well, I want to talk about Blood and Treasure. Before we get there,
Sure.
let's talk real quickly about how you got to where you are now. And the shortened version of in reading your bio, did you
Yeah.
grow up in Hawaii or you found yourself in Hawaii as you grew up?
No, I grew up in Maine
Maine,
and
okay.
I graduated high school. I'd never been outside of New England before. I'd never been
Okay.
on an airplane and I just wanted to go adventure. Like I went to University of Maine for a semester, but it was like all the kids that I went to high school with, like nothing was different. And
Yeah.
like I just and nothing against that. Like everybody was great in high school. I just felt like this desire to go,
Hmm.
like I um
You were an
so
adventurer. See, the adventurer became an
yeah.
adventure writer.
So
So
I dropped out of college. I worked until that whole spring semester summer and then you don't really get then at least I don't know how it is now, but then you didn't get accepted to Hawaii. You just applied. There was like not a real like so I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, but honestly that was just a
gotcha.
cover to say that I was going to school. Like it took me 6.5 years to finish there, so clearly I
Okay.
wasn't going to school full time. But I got a
Okay.
one-way ticket and I just went out there with a backpack and just
Wow.
started a new life. And
Yeah.
I became a scuba instructor, bartender. I was a live musician. I worked for I did research for Shell Oil. I did
Hmm.
all kinds of jobs, and then kind of went to school on the side.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's a history major. And then after the entire time I was out there, I was diving most of the time. I was diving and working as a diver like probably almost 6 of the 7 days a week, and then
Okay.
bartending on top of that, and then doing live music like 2 nights a week,
Yeah.
and then
What type of music? What type of
it
musician?
was acoustic,
Okay.
acoustic, like yeah, acoustic music, singer songwriter. I did like live loop sampling. I did all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I played at Tropics on the Beach on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights, which is like by the Sheraton Waikiki, um, over there by like the Halikoa and that area. It's a beautiful little bar, and then I bartended at Hula Grill, which is above the famous Duke's. It's the bar above that. They do like
Okay.
they're really popular breakfast, so I was the breakfast bartender. So I did like 3 in the morning to 6 like 30,
Wow.
um, which is a lot of people. Like so you do all the prep, and then like the early risers are all the older
Yeah.
folks who wake up and start drinking back scratchers in the morning. So like
Right.
um, yeah, and then I would shoot to the dive boat, and I would take clients out or do classes, do like pool sessions at night for like teaching diving, but then I would like take tours out during the day. And then like I put all of my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays
Okay.
in the daytime so I could still dive or do whatever I was doing at night. So I was just go like all the time. I was just go. Most of the time I skipped school. I switched to history so that I could have a better GPA because it was just reading. And I was always a good
Agreed.
reader.
Yeah.
And I never wrote fiction ever, but I could write really fast. So I would read all the books that I needed to for the semester for history and then write all the papers in like the first week. And all my work would be done for the whole semester, and I
You're
would get
set.
like an A. Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna do history and get a better GPA because I did want to boost my GPA so I could be a pilot in the Navy. So I like
Okay.
kind of gamed the system, yeah, that way. So then I got out. I joined. I got went through OCS, got a commission in the Navy, became a helicopter pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't I should have wore it. So I have one helicopter shirt. Actually, probably have a second one. So I'd never been on one, and I think it was 2021, 2022. I had the kids up in Gatlinburg area up in Tennessee, and I was like, "You guys want to ride a helicopter?" And they're like, think so. My son, especially, my daughter
Maybe
was very apprehensive, and so I had never
she's
been on one.
smart
I'm like,
then.
and I was just my first book was coming out, so I figured that was a cool way of kind of. And I actually got a digital copy of it up on the helicopter and did all that kind of stuff. So
Cool.
as the pilot's getting ready to put us in the helicopter, I told my daughter, "You can sit back with me. Bruce will sit in the front. It'll be good." No, no, no. They put my daughter in the front. Her eyes got big, and I'm like, "Oh crap, this isn't gonna go well." So it was a short little 10-minute flight, just a touristy thing. We land. She gets out. We all get out, and I look at her, and she goes, "Can we go again?" And I'm like, "No, I can't afford to take you again. I'll have to wait until next year." So
Yeah.
it went over very well. So the next year we were back again for another family trip, and I was just like, and
Oh,
they were
that's awesome.
like, "You promised another helicopter ride, Dad." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me go mortgage. Let me go sell
Uh,
the other kid." Yeah, well, actually, it was fairly inexpensive, but yeah. So we went and did it again, and need to go. Like to go some other places. Like I've done Hawaii. I was when you were mentioning that and talking about live music. I think we stayed at it was the Sheridan in Maui, but it was Lanai. Lanai. I can't remember which town it was. Right where the Black Rock is. I think
Lahaina.
Lahaina. Yeah,
Lahaina.
we were in Lahaina. The
Yeah,
Sheridan
yeah.
there in Lahaina.
Yep. I used to
Um,
work there too, and I worked
okay.
on Big Island, and yep, I worked all
Yeah,
over
so we
there.
did that. We did Lanai. We did Oahu. So we did like three of the islands. It was a few years ago. It was a while back. So I'd like to. My daughter actually wants to go at some point. Can we go to Hawaii? And I'm like, maybe. I got to save up my pesos. I need to sell more books. So,
I miss it every single day. Like it
yeah.
was just, I
Did you ever get
found
island
myself.
fever?
No,
You
no.
didn't.
A lot
Okay.
of people I knew did, and
Yeah.
they would just be there for a little bit. Um, but like once I got integrated there and I started working there, like I just found my way of life. Like you know, it was almost like I needed to go there. Like that's where I was just meant to be.
That's where you're
Like
meant to
it
be. Yeah.
my full personality came out there. Like I was a happy kid there.
Hmm.
Everything was just great. And yeah, it was really hard to leave, to be honest. But I just felt this itch to go, I had tried like a dozen different times to be a pilot in the military and also kept failing. And it's funny because we talked a little bit about the book thing, but um, I tried forever to be a pilot, and I kept getting denied and kept failing the application process, and finally I gave up and I enlisted in the Navy as an EOD tech, and I was getting
Okay.
ready to go because of my diving background. So I actually had initially dropped out of college, and I was going to just go into the Navy. They had like a $60,000 bonus, and all my dive background, I did really well in the physical exam and everything. And I showed up to a dive weekend, and there was a guy and his son there, 10 or 12 years old, and
Okay.
he was supposed to have a private advanced open water class, and their instructor no showed. And my boss was like, "Hey, you're here and you're qualified." Like it was weird for me to be there and not be working. I don't know.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know why I wasn't actually working that day, but I was there.
Right.
And so he was like, "Do you want to take on the class?" And I said, "Yeah." So I was with them for like the better part of the week,
Okay.
and I was just one on one, and we just had a great time. And like I used to be a lot more patient back then. And at the end of it, I'm bringing him and his son to the car at the very last day, and he had known about my little story how I wanted to get into flight school there, but he never said anything about who he was. We go to his car, and we're helping to load up his car, and he's got a flight suit and boots in there, Navy patches all over it. And I was like, "Oh, are you a pilot?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm an F-18 pilot, but I run Pack Air." He's a full bird '06.
Huh.
And I was like, "You run Pack Air?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh wow, like that's amazing." and then he was like, without me saying anything, he was like, "How about you come by the house tomorrow for like lunch?" And I was like, "Okay, like I gotta work, but like I'll figure it out." So I went to his
Hmm.
house, and without me saying anything, he just wrote a recommendation letter, slid
Wow.
it across the table, and asked me to read it, and I did. And you know, I was kind of like, no one had ever done anything like that for me before. And then he goes, I know what you said. You said your package got denied like 5 times. He was like, but what I'm going to do is go back into your recruiting office tomorrow,
Hmm.
and I'm going to tell him to send it one more time.
Wow.
And he was like, I can't promise anything, but I can promise, because my problem was I kept getting denied from the board because I had like a car repossession and some other stuff on my history that like
Oh, okay.
was like a black mark on my, and your stuff has to be perfect or they kick you in the box
Yeah.
because they get so many applicants.
Right.
So he was like, look, I'm gonna get you through that gate, but after that it's all up to you. And I
It's
was
all up
like,
to you. Yeah.
okay. The next day he went in his full dress uniform to my recruiting office and asked them to do that and gave his letter of recommendation. And to me, it's kind of crazy with what happened with writing because like he was a very godly person, and he stepped in my life and made that happen. And that was kind of the same thing that happened with Mike Madden too.
Hmm.
And was ironic is they each said identical words separated by almost 17 years. It was like, I felt compelled by God to help you. So like
Hmm.
for me, that's why I'm so unabashed how I got here because it's not my own steam. I keep trying things myself and I keep failing.
Right.
So yeah, so I
No.
served 12 years in the Navy, and then I got out after I got injured. And I worked as an investigator for 5 years, and so now
Wow.
I'm a safety officer for an unmanned test and evaluation squadron. So it's like UAVs and small UAVs and stuff like that. So
Okay. Everything happens for a reason.
yeah, I don't know what it is yet, but I don't know what that reason is yet.
The beautiful part of life is you might not never know, and that's okay. That's if
Yep.
you take life for what it's worth and you put in the effort and you prioritize what's important, your family, your kids, writing your books after all that, it's okay. It's okay if you don't have, if the big picture isn't revealed in your
Yeah.
young years where you still are. So
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that's how I'm here, and that's how I'm writing books now. So
awesome. Well, again,
yep.
everyone's backstory is unique, and that's the amazing thing about writing is there's no set formula how you get there.
Oh yeah, everybody's. I think that's why, before when we're all trying to start writing, we're so curious because everybody seems has a different way of getting there, has a different way of doing it. There's no
Right.
rules to any of it. There's
No.
zero rules. So, yeah,
Absolutely not. And the worst thing, and I think you probably are already got this one figured out. It didn't take me long to figure it out. Is don't compare yourself. I think it's so easy in this life to always want to compare yourself to either another writer or success and all that. It's like, man, our journeys are so unique. Be on your journey. Be the best
yeah,
version of yourself. Write your best novels.
yep,
Don't worry what fill in the blank, we'll use the
yeah,
big dogs. Don't worry what James Patterson did or what
yeah,
Jack Carr's doing or Jack's the
yeah, yeah,
popular one over the years, especially recently, that a lot of people want to compare to because of his success. And I know Jack and I've met Jack, and I always tell people, do you. Don't try to be the next Jack Carr, be the next whoever you are.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, he did something different than what other people were doing. So,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and when you compare, you start to do what you just said. Like, you start to want to imitate too much, and
Correct.
someone's already doing that. Do
Yes.
you want to get the scraps, like, and draft off of that person, or do you want to try and do something different and
Right.
try and figure out, do whatever they're doing, try and do something completely over here,
Yep.
like, that's my mentality with it at least. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, I think for you, just saying what you said about, your book not really fitting in on
yeah,
Tom's shelf with what he's
yep,
done with the Clancy world and all the ones that have kind of come through his desk over the years. Yeah, be the blood and treasure. Be the one that kind of is the exception because that's a
yep.
great thing. It's a great thing to be the exception to the rule.
Yeah, and I think right now the mentality. I mean, well, I don't think I know right now because of them taking this chance on me with this is they're hungry for new,
Yeah.
fresh,
Right.
different stuff. So if you're out there and you have a really different idea that you've maybe not written because you don't think people are going to want it, or you think a crossover is going to be too hard to sell, like I'm here to say that that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Things change, and if there might be a new, with this, so it might be the new thing that people can hop onto.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, let's tell the listeners about Blood and Treasure.
Oh yeah, we probably should do that.
Probably should talk about your book since, we want more than two of them to read it, so we need to tell them why more than two should read
Yeah.
it. So,
If you want to, guys, I posted on my like link in bio in any of my social sites. There's a page, and on there you can get a link to the excerpt for prologue and chapter one, or there's a video of a podcast I did on Rogue Reads where I read the whole prologue. So you
okay.
can hear me read the whole prologue if you want,
Awesome.
to get a little sneak peek. But you start out in the book you're thrown right into mission control and NASA, and there's an unknown problem on the International Space Station, and you're just in the middle of a chaotic mess where nobody knows what's happening. They've completely lost control and link to the station. They have no audio, video. They have nothing. And when they finally get it back, what they see kind of blows their mind. Everybody on board has been murdered
Mhm.
except for one astronaut who they witness killing the last person that's still alive. And then not too long after that, they lose connection with the video feed, and the entire station blows up. So it starts right off the bat with that, and then you open in chapter one with our protagonist Ethan Kane, who is a former military pilot who's now just left that all behind him, and
Mhm.
he's got his own survey company. He's not he's not really a treasure hunter. He has like high tech drones and things like that he uses to do oil pipeline surveys and all that kind of stuff. But because he has all this high tech stuff, like he'll get hired on other kinds of jobs to find
Yeah.
things that he's open for. So this is one of those kinds of jobs, and he's recovering something underwater off the coast of Mozambique.
Hmm.
And some people are after him, and you don't quite know. You kind of start to meet them in the next couple coming chapters, um, and and then the Soyuz spacecraft actually comes down in a fiery mass and almost takes them out and crashes into the water almost right on top of him. He goes to investigate it. Inside is trapped, who he doesn't know who she is, but the reader knows who she is. It's the Iranian astronaut Mojda Zahedi, who was on board the space station, who killed everybody,
Yeah.
and she has escaped on the Soyuz space capsule, and she's crashed almost on top of him, and he rescues her, and from he gets her out, and the people that are after him for what he's recovered are also after her.
Okay.
So it starts this adventure where Moj Zahadi is also kind of the mystery second protagonist of the book.
Hmm.
Spends the entire book deciding, switching, flip flopping, and finally giving up on trying to determine if she's a good person or a bad person, um, and why and how this is all linked together. Because
Hmm.
whatever she is also linked to what Ethan has recovered from
Okay.
the ocean. So that is Blood and Treasure.
Love it. Love the adventure side of it. Now, is I'm assuming you didn't get a ride on Blue Origin to see what blood will actually do up for your 3 minutes while you're with Katy Perry and whoever
No,
else is there.
no, that's where a lot of research came in was the space part. But then, it was just figuring out how to condense it down into a readable format.
Yeah. The research stuff on if you no matter what you write, unless you're coming out of a career that you're a subject matter expert and you work for the FBI and you do investigations, homicides, and all these things. Okay, maybe those you can write, with your eyes closed and don't have to think about it. But for the average person trying to pretend to be someone they're not, it's a lot. And you probably don't get
Yeah.
plenty of things right sometimes, but it's a lot of research, sometimes for just a couple paragraphs or lines, or maybe if you're lucky, a half a page sometimes. So, but it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and then with this book in particular, like I get that asked that question a lot about the research for the space station, because they find a lot of realism in the scenes and stuff. And I actually like you can you can over there's so much to research about the space station. And yeah, I'm not an astronaut. I was a pilot. I worked with the test pilot program, but I wasn't on the space station, so I'm never going to be able to write about it with the realism of someone who was.
Hmm.
But I lean into the things that I do know about flying,
Yeah.
diving, history, things like that, that try and make up for it. And then, using the craft of writing to help
Mhm.
you. So, try to find a way to write those scenes in a way that, or from a perspective where you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to have all the details, and that helps a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, if you and I was going to say that probably the one affordable way you could probably do some research for that is I'm sure it's still running, like at the Vomit Comet, where you can take the
Oh, I
plane.
mean, to be honest, like, if you have a good imagination
Yeah.
and you watch YouTube, on YouTube and on NASA's website, you can fly through the space station. You can watch YouTube videos of
Yeah.
them going through the station all day long. So you can figure out exactly where everything is and how
Right.
you can watch hours of that. And then, yeah, you can just go to like, like an amusement park and get that little ride that gives you that, like, if you really want to get crazy with it. But, you
Yeah.
know, uh, no, you don't have to get that crazy. It shouldn't cost an arm and a leg to have a good imagination.
100%, 100%. Yeah, there's a bunch of things I'm trying to figure out for future books, and it's like, okay, what do I have to try to do versus what do I have to try to research? I don't plan on writing anything dealing inside a cockpit or whatever, but I was fortunate. Man, I guess it's been about 4 years now. I was down in New Orleans. I think you know Jack Stewart.
Yes.
Jack was kind enough to get me on a joint base New Orleans and getting
Oh,
an
nice.
F-18 Hornet simulator.
Oh,
So
that's great.
that was like when I was texting people
That's
as I was
awesome.
leaving and down there, and they're just like, "Wait, you got to do what?" And I was like, "It
That's
was
great.
so
Jack is
cool."
so nice.
Of course,
Yeah.
he gave me a hard time, and this would only be Jack doing this because I forget. He's landed on like a carrier 300 and something times, or I should know the number. I can't remember now, but quite a lot of times. So we're going through the simulation, and he's behind me at first. Eventually, he left me alone and went in the control room. But he's like, "Okay, you got to land on the aircraft carrier." It's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I tried like several
Yeah.
passes, and I don't do it. And I think he got kind of sick of me like crashing into the aircraft carrier or overshooting it. Finally, he's just like, I'm just gonna go dump you into San Diego, turn off all the crash controls, just go have fun flying around San Diego. And I've been to San Diego a lot over the years. So, oh, dude, it was great flying under the bridge for
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Coronado and doing stuff, trying to fly between skyscrapers and, just launch missiles at buildings. It was like, okay, I'm having the fun part without, federal prison or death or anything bad. Like, this is
Yep.
not bad. So.
Yeah.
It was
Yep. The
a great
simulators are fun.
experience for sure. Probably the only time in my life
Oh
I
yeah.
ever get to do that, but I'll always treasure that opportunity he gave me and that experience. It was
Oh
it was
yeah.
neat.
Yeah. Jack is great, and that's super fun that you got to do that. The simulators are amazing. Machines. They're pretty
Yeah.
close. That, like, we use them a lot. Like, we're probably in the simulators, like, I would easily say 4 times as much as you're in the actual aircraft. So the
Hmm.
simulators are super fun. Spend a lot of time in them. Yeah, they're a blast.
Yeah.
Then it never gets old, like shooting the buildings and stuff. Trust me, it doesn't.
No. Well, and he was at one point, so when he was in the control room, he had me go through the steps of of course I'm flying, quote
Yeah,
unquote,
yeah,
of
yeah.
shutting everything down and then restarting it, which is something you would never do, obviously, when you're in the air. But just
Yep.
to walk through that process, because the simulator is 100% what they train on. So all the
Yep.
buttons and everything
Yep.
is where it's
Everything
supposed to
works.
be. So just a great experience. Of course, I was at the time like, dude, you got to get me in a real jet. I got to get in one. And he's just kind of like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. I believe his quote was, you're not Mark Greeny." So,
I was
it's like,
just thinking that. I was like, he's probably gonna be like, "You're not Mark Rainey."
yeah, you're not Mark. Yeah. I can't remember if he had got Mark in before or after that. It's been several years, so my brain's probably forgetting the time frame on when that occurred. So, yeah, it's so one day I'll find the right person, or I'll sell enough books or make enough lists that someone says, "Oh, okay, you want to get in the back of one of these." Maybe by then I'll be like, nah, let my son do it. I don't I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, your best bet probably be or anyone else who wants to do it. If you just go to air shows, just follow around the Blue Angels, the air shows and stuff, and like everywhere they take people up. Not just them, but like um all the people that go to the air shows take people up like for free. Like not a lot
Interesting.
of people know that. You go to air shows and you'll probably ride with like a retired astronaut. And like like I know Joe Edwards. I flew formation with him in a
Okay.
T what is it, 28. And yeah, so like he would take up kids, adults, he would take up other people. You get to fly in old warbirds, you get to fly in some really cool like L-39 jets.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Blue Angels take up people promotionally. So yeah, like if anyone out there ever wants to fly in aircraft and cool military aircraft and helicopters, anything, like
Hmm.
just check out an air show and go
Interesting.
to it's a fun weekend and you'll probably get to fly in something or you can sign up for something.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
before we wrap this up and you tell everyone where to go to buy Blood and Treasure, my last question, at least
Shoot.
for the first interview, my last question is always the same.
Okay.
Clearly, you're a writer. You've written more than one book, but your debut is Blood and Treasure. I
Yep.
think you'd agree with me. Life is like a book. Got a first page, got a last page. I think it's a blessing. We don't know how many pages are between those. But as a writer, you get to write your last page. What does that last page say?
Um, what is that? The last page, like I die.
You take that question however you'd like. People
Oh
take it all
man.
different kind of ways, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, if I can make it to the end of my book and my kids still want to hang out with me and, um, my wife, is still with me and all that, like then that is a good book. So, I'm gonna keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Like I said, I've had some funny responses live. You're probably episode 62, 63 I filmed. So I've asked pretty much, actually, I think the one person that got out of that question was Carr. I did an interview with him last September, maybe it was. It was for his nonfiction book for about the bombing. And we're getting in the groove, or I thought, and all of a sudden he's like, I gotta go. I got another interview. And I was like, oh man, because we were just stacked in like for the hour for him. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to bring Jack back a second time down the road. Maybe with the new Reese book this fall or something, I'll bring him back. And that'll have to be my first question probably for him. So
Finish.
yeah,
Take
but
right off from the other one.
yeah, just start right from that one and make him. Let's see if we can make Jack Carr sweat. I don't know. I don't. That might not be. That might not be possible. So no, but again, great guy. You never, man, that's where I tell people too, that I'll end with this is you don't know until you put yourself out there what's going to happen, first of all. And also you don't know who you're going to meet. People think a lot of, especially with writers, writers are so like if you're able to go to a conference or if you're able to go to a book signing, if Jack Carr comes through your town or whoever it might be, you never know. You never know who you might meet, what they might say, what encouragement you'll get from them. So, but you got to put yourself out there. You got to take that
Yeah.
step to kind of get out of
Yep.
your comfort zone. If your comfort zone isn't for socializing face to face
Yep.
with strangers, get out of that comfort zone. Go introduce yourself. I did it with Carr, did it with Brad Taylor and all these different authors at conferences, and never once did I have an experience where it was kind of like get away from me or whatever. It was quite opposite. So
Yeah.
coming up with something
Yeah.
clever to say might be difficult. Like I met Lee Child, and the only thing I could think to say is, "See, I'm about as tall as Tom Cruise," and he laughed. I got a laugh out of him for my Tom Cruise reference. So I was like, "Oh, okay, well that's a win." He might remember that one if he sees me again in a couple of years. So
Too funny. Too
never
funny.
know. So
Yeah, I mean those things are intimidating. Like I never went to Thriller Fest before, and I went this time, and it's just as intimidating for someone who has a book
yeah,
coming out
it
as
is
it is for someone who's an aspiring writer. So
right.
like I didn't feel any different being there, um, than otherwise. That you don't know a lot of people, and you just gotta break through that barrier and
Yep.
talk to people. But you do start meeting like very like-minded people, and
Yeah.
building that network out, which is important. You know, it's important even just in the business sense too. Like what hey, what's in is this kind of stuff that's in my contract, like in all your guys' contracts, like that kind of
Right.
stuff, like,
Yeah.
because they try and pull ones over on you, and sometimes your
Sure.
agents, they don't go to school to be an agent. They
Mhm.
they only know what they know. So, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, when I got my first contract, I didn't have an agent, so I didn't know what I was reading. So I was fortunate that I had multiple very well-known authors that I knew. And I said, well,
yeah,
this isn't much money. I don't care that they know it's not much money. I reached out and said, I know you can't give me legal advice, but will you just look this over and say, am I stupid to sign this thing? And they were super generous. Like, I take this part out, or I don't know what this part means. And I'm like, the
yeah,
publisher probably doesn't know. It's probably standard verbiage that this small publisher is using.
yeah,
But again, building those connections and finding like-minded people, it's the side of this that I don't think you realize going into it, how much of a blessing it can be.
yeah.
Just to, basically you find your tribe, which is a great thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So I'm looking forward to going to BoucherCon, and I'll probably be going again next year to both of them.
Awesome.
So, and I never went before, so I used to think that it was a lot of money for not a lot of return, and I'm
Yep.
I'm thinking differently about that now
Thinking
for
different
sure.
about it. Yeah. So Blood and Treasure out July 22nd. Where should
Yep.
people go to get their copy?
Wherever books are sold, comes out July 22nd. Just like you said, you can find me at my website, ryanpote.com, or all the social media channels at ryanpotebooks. Or at ryanpotebooks. Just that.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Congratulations.
Thank you.